Friend of the channel, Chase Avior, is a vegan activist who is also interested in having civil conversations. He reached out to have a talk about his belief that slaughterhouses should be illegal. This led to a wide-ranging conversation about how we value consciousness, including whether we value animals over plants because they have superior consciousness or simply because they're closer kin to ourselves. I'm not sure how far I got in terms of examining Chase's epistemology, but it was an interesting conversation nonetheless. My name is Nick, and this is Conversations on the Coast. Go ahead and lead me into your topic.
Okay, so I was just saying that it's nice that you have watched some of my videos on my YouTube, so you're a little familiar with the philosophy that I'd be talking about, um, but the audience might not be, so that's kind of why I want to spend as much time as we need. I got nowhere to go, um, so that we can d dive pretty deep into the issue if you want. Um, but. Yeah, the idea is I've been vegan for 14 years now, and I think that slaughterhouses should be illegal, and that's my claim that slaughterhouses should be illegal.
So let's get into that because you what you didn't say was that it should be illegal to kill animals. You're specifically focused on slaughterhouses. Is that a significant piece of the claim?
Yeah, I mean, we could expand it more to hunting, that would be included in there.
Mm.
But there's going to be times, because, vegans aren't perfect. Nobody's perfect. So, just by existing, some animals are going to die,
Mm.
by us, walking across the street, like kill some insects, step on some bugs, or, driving across town hit a deer on accident or whatever, um, or in the harvesting of plant foods, there is some insect deaths and some, maybe some little mice every now and then or something. And that's unfortunate, and we want to reduce that as much as possible. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But you also believe that you also extend that to hunting. So like an individual family going out, killing a deer, let's say, and then quote unquote responsibly using all parts of the deer, you would also exclude that from you think that should also be illegal.
yeah,
And
because
then
yeah, for the same reasons that like we wouldn't want it done to us
yeah.
or to a dog, you know. Like I've got deer that come into the yard here, and they're they're a very peaceful people,
Mhm.
like, and they're skittish, they're scared, they don't mean us any harm, and they care about their friends and their family and stuff. And they got it hard enough as is, with dealing with mountain lions and the cold and all.
Okay. So can I modify your can I restate your claim as being um, that humans should not intentionally kill other animals? Is that
As
or
much as possible,
that too
like we should
broad?
avoid it as much as possible and practicable.
Okay. Um,
And that it should be illegal though. Like I want it to be that strong stance, you know what I
sure.
mean?
Okay. So so it's interesting that you're focusing on the legal aspect. So I just want um, to ask about your stance on the morality of it. Do you also
Sure.
believe that it's immoral?
From my subjective values, yes.
Okay. And then so what I've been doing lately is when people have a normative claim like that, right? A claim about a value.
Hmm.
Um, you know the standard SE question about confidence level.
Yeah.
I try to do this in two dimensions. It's something I'm kind of experimenting with. So on a scale of 0 to 100, kind of in like the standard SE way, and I realize it's not a fact claim, but
Right.
what would you
Not
say
a
is
truth
your
claim.
confidence in that this is immoral on a scale of 0 to 100?
Well, I mean, I don't believe in objective morals, so like But um for me, like, yeah, 99%, you know.
Hmm. Okay. And then the other piece, the other dimension um, that I like to use is what I think of as the x-axis is on a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 is this is just an interesting thing for you to think about and you like to do it. And 100 is this is a moral duty, and anybody who doesn't do this is morally bankrupt. Where are you
Well,
on?
excuse me. I mean, it might only something might only be a moral um uh obligation if only if somebody's values are in line with that. Like if you like this is all on a conditional and if like if you if someone cares about the well-being of sentient beings,
Mhm.
then one ought be vegan. One ought not support slaughterhouses or kill them unnecessarily. That would be a moral obligation. But if they don't have the same values, like maybe they're just like the Joker, they just don't care about anything or whatever, and they want to see the world burn, then and they're down with dying in the process, you know, they're self-destructive, you know, then they don't have a moral obligation from their moral value system to be nice to animals. But I would say from my value system, they still have a moral obligation to not harm innocent victims.
Yeah. But because this is necessarily subjective, I'm looking for your point of view. So from your point of view, it is a moral duty that all humans should refrain from
Yeah,
killing animals.
I'm just a little iffy on using that kind of language.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's the type of thing where like everybody should stop doing this. It's violent and unnecessary and therefore immoral, something I call morally bad.
Mhm. That's interesting though, because I do want to jump back into what you were saying about depending on somebody else's moral values. So if my moral values, for example, include, let's say believing that humans have the right to kill animals for food, and let's cast me as, and this is not, I'm using myself as an example. This is not my
Mhm.
necessarily my claim, but if I were somebody who said um, that hunting animals is acceptable, but you need to be responsible and use everything that that there's no waste, that there's no waste of the product of the kill. Uh, is it your assertion then that it's not a moral duty for me to refrain from killing animals?
Um, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure exactly how to respond, but uh, they should see it like as a moral duty, at least. They should see it as that, but they might not, you know. I think they should because it would be what's in the best interest of the victim and the perpetrator and society in general. Um, and I can maybe like help them realize that actually maybe their values do align with animal rights and anti-speciesism and pro sentientism, where we're, caring about sentience
Yeah.
instead of arbitrary factors like what species somebody's born into, because
Mhm.
nobody gets to control that. And there's nothing wrong with being different. But sentience, would apply to other other individuals outside of just the human race. So it would include animals or aliens, if aliens exist, and they're sentient.
Yeah.
It would exclude plants because though they're living organisms, they're not sentient beings because they
Hmm.
don't have a brain or pain receptors and nervous system and stuff like this.
Okay. If you were to find out and be convinced to your satisfaction that plants do have sentience, would it be your contention that plants should also be included and it should be illegal to kill plants?
No, because the science shows that we need to eat plants in order to survive and be healthy, but we don't need to eat animal products like meat and dairy and eggs in order to survive and be healthy. And also, when we eat meat and dairy and eggs, we are maximizing the amount of plants that are killed
Mm,
because the cows and pigs and chickens have to eat a bunch of plants for months and months to get up to slaughter weight and produce a small amount of product. So it's like, for example, Yale University said that it takes 25 calories of plants to make 1 calorie of beef because the
mm.
cow has to eat a bunch of plants for 18 months.
Are these plants that would not die if the animals were not being raised for slaughter?
It's usually soy and corn and so like according to the American Soy Association, 90% of soybeans are used as feed for livestock in America, 90%. Um, so I don't know exactly the answer to your question, but in any case, like the land usage and whatnot is so extensive, resource intensive for animal farming that
Mhm.
more plants are killed than if we just eat plants directly. So there's a necessity and there's a minimization of harm and there's a lack of sentience in plants. But if there were, it would still be the best thing to do. And they would probably, if plants are sentient, despite not having a brain, they would probably be less sentient than a mammal, for example,
Mm.
because maybe there's a sliding scale of sentience. And
That's interesting. Why do you believe that plants are less sentient? What it,
well, I don't think they're sentient at all. But if they were sentient, I would expect that they would be of lesser sentience than animals, and especially more developed animals like mammals.
why do you believe that?
I'm not too sure, but like because we have, I guess because we have no reliable evidence of plants being sentient right now, and so if we were to discover that it does exist somehow, it if it's gone so undetected by now, I'm guessing, and maybe just be a guess, that. And maybe I shouldn't be a confident guess, but we're deep in the woods of hypotheticals here, so which is fine. That's where there's a nice overlap between street epistemology and veganism, as we do a lot of hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's interesting looking at if if it could be demonstrated to you that, sorry, and I realize I've done the if it could be demonstrated a couple times. I feel like I'm
no,
repeating myself.
that's okay. Go for it.
If we found out tomorrow that in fact we've been very short-sighted in thinking about sentience because we think about it from a mammalian or an animal point of view. And in
Hmm.
fact, plants were as or more sentient than mammals. Where would that leave you with your beliefs?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, um, again, there's the thing of necessity that we have to eat plants in order to survive and be healthy. But I might say that like we would need to be as considerate to plants as possible in that process, or not harm other plants that we don't need for food. Like just be nice to the tree, but maybe eat the apple that's fallen or something like this. Unless we're saying that apples care how they're treated also in this hypothetical, then it's like, damn, man, we're fucked.
If plants were found to be more sentient than animals,
Oh yeah.
would
Then thanks for bringing that back. So uh, so there would also be a number thing, like a number of what number of plants versus number of animals. Let's say that you got and I'm not sure what my answer to this is going to be, but let's say here you've got plants and they're more sentient, but there's 10 of them. Over here there's animals that you're saying are less sentient than the plants, but let's say there's 100 of them instead of 10. Do I
Mm.
value 100 less sentient individuals more than 10 more sentient individuals? I'm not sure,
Mhm.
you know. Um,
What
but if we were to put them on an equal, because like I was saying, it kills more plants to feed them through animals. That's why I brought up that number. But if it was a 1-to-1 ratio, then I would start valuing plants more than animals. If plants were sentient or more sentient, because I value sentience more than the fact that they're animals. It's the I care about animal rights because they're sentient. So if we found another being that was more sentient than animals,
Yeah.
if there is such a thing, which I think maybe we're more sentient than other animals. I mean, we're animals, but we might be more sentient because we might be, because of our higher intellect, we might be able to comprehend more things, and that might mean more sentience. But, a dog has a much better sense of smell than we have, and so they can experience things happening miles away with their enhanced sense there.
Maybe it would be instructive to define sentience.
Sure. So from my perspective, is basically a the ability to have a subjective experience, the ability to feel and be conscious, um, and yeah, feel pain and pleasure usually.
So
But I
just
think that even in the absence of that though, like it's more about consciousness, I think, or well, I don't know, because I could imagine like somebody being like if like imagine a human who is just like you and me, but they for whatever medical reason can't feel pain, hypothetically. I would still say they're sentient because they might experience emotional pain like fear or sadness, or they might still be able to enjoy their lives. And so, they're sentient in that respect because they're
Mhm.
conscious.
So a minute ago you were talking about intellect, and you proposed that humans were more sentient. I think that's the word, those are the words you used.
Yeah, and I
Then,
could be wrong about that. It's a different type of sentience than non-human animals, perhaps, um, especially depending on the species. Like we're very similar to other great apes, as
yeah.
opposed to like maybe a dog.
So if sentience is defined as being conscious and having a conscious experience of the world, being able to sense and feel, does it matter how intelligent an animal is?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure, but like, um, I can, like semi states of consciousness, for example, like you just got knocked out and you're coming back out, coming to, or you're under heavy anesthesia or something, um, you know, or whatever. Um, I think we're not as sentient in those moments as we are right now, I would say.
Mhm.
And that's just an example, I think, of a sliding scale of sentience, but I don't know if that necessarily applies to other species. But I'm saying, like, if they're, only as smart as we are when we're in a slight daze,
Mm.
you know, then maybe they're just not as sentient as us, but they're still sentient. Like I still think it's like an on and off switch, but then like it's like on and off with a uh adjustable meter or whatever.
So if we look at, I don't want to start with this with humans. Let's start with let's start with a dog, which I think is already a little shocking to have these thoughts about, but maybe a little bit more pointed than a cow, because I think we can recognize that there are certain dogs or certain dog breeds that you can. I'm trying to stay away from assumptions.
Hmm.
Had the experience of interacting with a dog and having the thought that it's very intelligent. I have
Hmm.
also had the experience of interacting with a dog and thinking that that dog was dumb as rocks.
Right.
Come to think of it, the same is happened with humans. Now I think we pulled intelligence out of the equation with sentience. It's really about consciousness. Did we agree on that?
I'm not totally sure still.
Okay. So I guess then my question is relevant. Would it be more moral, neither of them are moral, would it be a lower degree of immorality to kill a dog that's dumb as rocks than it is to kill a dog who we perceive as being intelligent, highly intelligent?
Well,
Like
um,
you're talking about the sliding scale of sentience, right? So I'm trying to
yeah,
get a wedge in there a little.
yeah, yeah. All other factors being equal, like they're the same age, so they have the same lifespan. They're both nice dogs or whatever, like they're not, they both, but I guess I would just think that maybe the more sentient or more intelligent dog is able to enjoy their life more because they can experience more things to more complex degrees. And
Mhm.
so if there were two dogs like that in a burning building and I could only save one, I I could flip a coin. That's the other option. I could just rescue one, like whichever one is, so long as you're rescuing somebody. But I might lean towards the more intelligent dog, if all else being equal though.
And why?
Like I said, like I think they might be able to experience more of life and enjoy their life more than the other. But I could be wrong about that
Yeah, why do you believe that?
because of the range of capabilities, because of higher intellect, range of capabilities to experience positive emotions and positive experiences in general. But I could be wrong. Like maybe that dumb dog is happy as shit.
Yeah, I'm wondering like why, because I think when I asked you why do you believe that that dog is capable of more enjoyment?
Well, it's also
I think
like another thing I factor in a burning building hypothetical is like contribution to society. So
Mhm.
like a
Okay.
a a the dumb dog, as much as I love them and I want to protect them, they may not be able to contribute to society as much as the smarter dog who might. I don't know, but that might not be true either. Maybe the smart dog is less affectionate towards humans and the dumb dog is really affectionate. So there's just a lot of qualifiers that I have to like calculate. And unfortunately that burning building is going down, so I better make up my mind quick, huh?
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot more complex calculus going on in your head about the value of life than just if it's sentient, it's valuable. And as
Yeah.
a matter of fact, you made a statement that I wanted to push back on a little bit, which is you talked about a dog that might be nice to people as opposed to aggressive to people. Why is the level of aggression that a dog gives towards people a reason to value its life less?
Because they might hurt us. And it's unfortunate, it might not be fair because maybe they're violent because they were abused by humans, you
Sure.
know? But they might hurt us. They might be more resource intensive to take care of because we have to separate them from other animals and from humans. You know what I mean?
What about a
But
dog? that might not attack humans, but might attack goats, for example.
Yeah, I used to have a pit bull that was like that. He was bad with other animals, but good with humans. But I just try to keep him separate from 'em. But I would um have to value a more peaceful animal like more than a violent one. If
I think I
because
see a way that makes sense, but I want to I want to test this a little bit. Another hypothetical. Say you have a pit bull that has killed a child, a human child, and then you have another pit bull that has a habit of going out and killing the neighbor's goats. How do you how do you weigh the value of those two dogs when
yeah,
you
it's hard to say. Um, so like, I mean, are we putting them both in a burning building now, or like a
well
hypothetical on
it's
top of hypothetical, or what are we
no
doing?
I'm just talking about the morality or immorality. Like are there degrees of morality when you're killing something that's sentient, and how do you apportion that, right? I want to acknowledge we're doing trolley problem, right?
Yeah.
These are hard questions, and I'm just trying to
Yeah.
tease apart your thinking in terms of um, is it really the sentience of the animal? And it seems like maybe there's something in here about utility to humans, or like I could see it a couple different ways, and so I'm just interested in
Yeah.
how you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. The first thing that I want to say is like if a dog kills a child, like I still don't think that dog necessarily need to be put down
Mm.
because it's just in their nature. They're like, some of them are just crazy, and um like that doesn't mean we need to support the death penalty if it can be avoided, you know what I mean? So like try and give them rehab, but like at least just keep them in a separated area and feed them and try and give them a good quality of life, and I guess just stay away from them. Uh but um but I don't know where you want to go from there. As
I was thinking about the like how many sentient beings. So if there's a dog that kills one sentient being, do you take the life of that dog? If there's a dog that habitually kills other sentient beings, is that worth taking the
Well,
life?
I
And it
wouldn't take their lives. I would just make the walls stronger so that they can't get out, or like punish the people, like take the dog away from the people that are irresponsibly housing them. And dogs can be tricky. Like sometimes my pit bull got out of the yard. Like he was an escape artist. I didn't see it coming. And so um but yeah.
and what would you say to the parents of the child about the value of the life of that dog if the dog killed the child? Like what would
Well, I would try to like show them how like the unless we're talking like a dog that's like rabid that like has no can't enjoy their life, or
Mhm.
something. But aside from that, I'm talking about like a happy, healthy dog that if you get too close, they'll fuck you up. But like, so there's little kids that are like that too, right? There are dangerous children out there, and some of them kill other children, and
Yeah.
we don't kill that child for killing that other child because we realize they're not smart enough to have full moral culpability. And so the same should apply to the animal that did the attacking.
Got it. Cool. All right, thank you. I think I'm to a point where I understand your claim well.
Cool.
I'm not sure if we've started the SE portion.
Oh, I
So
think so.
we've mostly talked about morality And I did that on purpose because I think when you're talking about illegal, well, I'll let you say what in your mind is the difference between acknowledging as a species that harming other sentient life is bad and making it illegal. Can you tease apart for me what the difference is there in your mind?
Well, I mean, so I don't want to legislate all of my morality, right? I don't want to impose all of my moral thinking onto everybody else. But when there's a victim involved and it's easily avoidable, then it's
Mm,
like, damn, what are we doing here? You know, we already have laws against kicking animals, so we should
mm,
also have laws against stabbing them. Because
mm.
stabbing is worse than kicking. Even if
Okay.
you do the stabbing while they're sleeping, or you shoot them in the back of the head, like that's like, if we did that to a human, that'd be murder. At least they didn't feel any pain or any fear, so that's cool. But it's not like putting down my dog when he was
Mm.
14 because his quality of life had deteriorated and it was a mercy killing, and I would want someone to do the same for me, you know. That's not what happens to these like 6-month-old pigs in gas chambers.
Okay, so to summarize, um, are you saying that you would make these things, you would legislate the morality in this case? I think what you said is because it's easily avoidable.
Yeah, it's well, and because it's violent. Yeah, violent and easily avoidable. Not necessary.
Okay. Um, why do you believe that making killing of animals illegal would be effective at ending suffering, reducing suffering of animals? Am I am
Yeah.
I representing you correctly?
Yeah, yeah, reducing. Yeah, I mean, we want to eliminate it, but we can't, It'll be just a decrease because like I said, even vegans step on bugs or whatever. Um but like yeah, we want it to be, or I want it to be, I need to not speak for others. I want it to be illegal. Just like because if it was a human victim,
Mhm.
we would say the same thing. And I don't see a legitimate moral difference between humans and non-human animals, that justifies that difference in treatment.
Mhm. Um, I'm thinking about other times when we have made imbibables or edibles illegal,
Sure.
like prohibition, for example.
Yeah.
Um,
Why would this work?
yeah, why do you believe that this would be effective when
Yeah.
when something like prohibition? And I'm trying to think how to do this in a real SE way. I feel like this is
Yeah.
almost a
Well,
debate topic because I'm giving an example of something that backfired tremendously. So why do you believe that making killing of animals illegal would be effective?
for one, we've seen it with human on human murder,
Mm,
um, that by having laws against murder, that decreases the amount of murders that happen,
mm,
because people are afraid of the punishment. It sets a social norm against violence, so on and so forth. We also have historical precedent, and it's recent, of the California fur ban. So it's now illegal to sell fur in California because of the animal cruelty. And that took like 3 years and 300 activists to
mm.
take down a $40 million per year industry in California. And um and it started like, and so and there hasn't been an uprising against it. Like there hasn't been some uh like Macy's and JC Penney and whatnot are not selling underground fur, you know what I mean? Like they took it off their shelves. And um so uh it's still legal to wear fur in California, but big legal changes take time sometimes, so when there's not a huge amount of activists fighting for it, um, but like I said, we had a relatively low number of people, instead of the whole town with us and stuff, um, but the whole town wasn't fighting us either. And it started in a small city of West Hollywood, and then Berkeley, California, another small progressive city,
Mm.
known for both of those known for like gay rights and civil rights and like freedom of speech and whatnot. And then um, San Francisco went on board, and then Los Angeles, and then we took it to the governor, and he signed it, and there you go, it's full state ban. And then that acts as you know, other states are introducing copycat legislation.
If you,
That's different than meat though, because like not everybody wears fur, but like everybody eats meat.
yeah, yeah. So I'm wondering if you could become convinced that, if there were evidence that a ban on killing animals would not be effective, would that reduce your confidence that we should make it illegal?
Yeah, I guess I would think that, I would have to, you know, this would have to be like long term, like decades into the future type f- you know, future seeing and whatnot, but like because it's hard to know exactly what to do, but we have like historical precedent of other social justice movements and the tactics they used and so on and so forth. But if that were the case, that like banning slaughter actually or trying to ban slaughter or being effective at it made even more animals die somehow,
Mhm.
then then I would say, okay, well, maybe we need to just focus on a different form of activism, like educational outreach, where we're just politely encouraging people to go vegan, and then hope that that will be enough consumer demand change,
Yeah.
and that maybe people will go plant-based for the environment and their health, and so that'll help the animal rights movement as well. Like even if they don't care about animals, they're not buying their products anymore. Um, and then there's also more and more plant-based meats and like vegan cheese and eggs and ice cream that's coming out, that's getting better and better by the year. And there's lab-grown cultured meat that's actual animal flesh, but without an animal dying or being mistreated in the process. And so that'll become, as the years go by, more cheaper and accessible, stuff like that.
I'm going to assume that if we found out that sentience didn't require a brain, but was actually inherent in the entire living flesh of an animal, that you would object to lab-grown meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that didn't seem like an interesting place to go, but it's interesting when you talk about lab-grown meat. It's like, what if it's also sentient in a way? Um,
Mhm.
oh, I had a path I wanted to go down, and it's fled my brain. Um, is there a scenario where curtailing the killing of animals could lead to more human suffering?
Not that I can see, because like the meat industry is really bad for the environment. For example, the dairy industry, the egg industry, these are really like polluting our waterways, emitting greenhouse gas emissions, methane, taking up a bunch of land and crops usage for feed, water usage for feeding the animals. Um, you know, we, according to the United Nations, we currently raise, feed, and kill 70 billion land animals across the world for food. That doesn't include fish, but that's 70 billion. That's 10 times the human population. Um, So we're feeding all those, we're breeding all those animals into existence and feeding them plants
Mhm.
when there are humans who are starving. Like a billion humans are malnourished or underfed. Um, and but these livestock animals are fattened up. And that ain't right. So instead of breeding those animals into existence and having extra mouths to feed, we need to use those resources appropriately and feed our own people.
Do you believe that if we were not supporting factory farming, that there would be more resources for people?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's other things that other issues that, or I mean, other complications that go into the world hunger situation,
Yeah.
than just like having more resources. But if we had 10 times more resources, it'd be, like easier for plenty to go around, I would think. And if we stop killing animals, then we might expand our circle of compassion to the starving as well.
Interesting. Why do you believe that that would be true?
I just think that whenever we take steps towards evolving our empathy, it expands that circle of compassion. And I started out as a human rights activist, and then was like, well, I mean, why am I, you know, excluding animals from this? Like, I didn't get to choose to be born human, and they didn't choose to be born that way, and I'm nice to my dog. Why am I paying someone to stab a cow? It just didn't make any sense.
So the things I was starting to think, I was still thinking about it seems like there would be massive changes that would need to happen if we stopped cold turkey today.
Yeah, and it wouldn't happen
Cold turkey
overnight.
is a tone deaf
Yeah.
is a tone deaf uh,
Cold tofurkey.
yeah,
Yeah.
cold if we stopped today,
Mhm.
um uh what would be the implications like across the economy if we
Yeah, it'd be
stopped?
huge ramifications for the human species, which we would definitely deserve for enslaving these poor little baby animals. But I'm not like it's not gonna happen that way, so we don't have to worry too much. I mean, I can engage in the hypothetical if you want, but like it's gonna be a gradual change that takes decades if it ever happens, right? And it's gonna start in small progressive cities and expand from there, as opposed to a nationwide ban overnight.
Yeah.
But a lot of industries are seeing this change coming.
Mhm.
And like Burger King in the UK said that their menu is going to be 50% plant-based, like vegan burgers and bacon and cheese and ice cream and stuff by 2030, 50% by 2030. For the
Wow.
environment is their reason. Um, and because it like looks good, to consumers to be caring about the environment.
Gosh, let's put a pin in this for another conversation, but I would love to have a conversation about plant-based meats and whether that's a good idea, as
Okay.
opposed to getting people used to eating plants. But that's a totally different topic, and I don't want to jump down that rabbit hole today.
Okay.
I definitely have opinions there, uh, but I want to go back to basics, back to the very beginning of the conversation. Why is killing a sentient animal immoral?
Because they feel pain and pleasure and they're able to enjoy their lives. And so I don't want to stop, like, just like how I don't want to murder you because you're enjoying your life. I don't want to murder them because they're enjoying their lives and they're like little kids, or
Mhm.
like, severely disabled, uh, or somebody with brain damage, like really bad brain damage to where they're only as smart as a 3-year-old or a dog or a pig.
Mhm.
Like, we protect these individuals usually, like, because it doesn't matter that they're not as smart as us. What matters is they're sentient.
Is that just a subjective opinion?
Well, I mean, that's based in science, but like
Mm.
the part of me that's saying like they deserve respect and all, yeah, that's my moral philosophy.
Mhm.
And you better
Why-
agree with
What,
it.
what supports? I'm neutral in this conversation. What supports? I mean, what support? It sounds silly, right? But um, and I think I have answers to this, but I'm gonna press on you. Um, why is our, let's say, instinct or um, like why does the fact that you intuitively feel, I think, as maybe that's the best way I can say it, that you shouldn't end somebody's enjoyment of life? Why is that a bad thing to do? Why why
Be-
why does that feeling in you make that a bad thing to do?
Oh, um, well, if again, it's on that conditional, like if I care about others, and I do,
Mhm.
then it's, not in others' best interest. It's not in my best interest for me to harm them. Was that your?
Why is it in your best interest not to harm them?
I've been violent before, and I don't feel good when doing it anymore.
Okay. So is it because it doesn't make because it makes you feel bad?
That's part of it, yeah. But like, I mean, like I put animals on the forefront instead of the having them on the back burner, and then I put my habits and my taste pleasure and all that, my addiction to meat, dairy, and eggs on the back burner, and started thinking about justice instead, right? And the victims and what they deserve, and that I ain't got no right to do this to them. It's an abuse of power. Uh, and so it became very easy to change. But yeah, so like, but at the same time, yeah, it makes me feel good to not hurt others.
Okay. Why is you feeling good about something a good reason to act a certain way?
Because well, I don't know if free will exists. I kind of don't think it does, but like, I'm trying to um, direct my life in a positive way. Um, like a way that's pro-social towards humans and animals and any sentient being as much as I can. Um, does that answer your question?
I think it does, but I think we're back to it makes you feel good.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, what is that okay?
It's fine. Everything you say is fine. I'm trying to understand if there's a deeper moral compunction here. If
Well, I mean,
if you could give your life to prevent other animals from dying, where would
I
you?
kind
It
of
was a
do
question.
like with
If it was a
the
trolley problem where you were on one side and there were a bunch of animals on the other, like where would you pull up?
yeah, that's a great question. It's tough to say. It would be so like I I am already pretty much like willing to die for the movement, like but that's like different than dying for 100 animals or 1,000 animals necessarily, because like so and I do have though I've been suicidal many times in my life, thousands of times, and I'm heavily medicated now and in therapy and doing well most of the time, bipolar and PTSD and stuff. But like, I enjoy my life for the most part, and um, they do too. I want to respect that. I want others to respect my life, and I want to live a certain way that's helping everybody. Did that answer your question? I'm not trying to
No, it does. It,
dodge.
it does answer my question, but I'll tell you why I'm drilling on this a little bit. Because I live in Seattle,
Yeah.
and I interview people like in public pretty frequently, the claim I hear a lot is we should be nice to other people.
Hmm.
And so I have this conversation a lot. And at the end of the day, it seems to come down to people's personal preference, but I feel like there must be something deeper that underlies that. And I think
Well,
and I think maybe that's the impulse that makes people start to invent, supernatural beings and such. But I feel like maybe there's biological imperatives that came from evolution
yeah.
that cause us to protect our species. So
Well,
the
we also empathize with other animals a lot, you know.
Yeah, we empathize because we share DNA with them. So we recognize maybe some piece of ourselves.
I think it's that well, I mean, in part we have mirror neurons, you know,
Yeah.
but like we
Yeah.
we um see another suffering and we're like, oh, that's, you know, hard to watch because we're, you know, most of us are averse to violence,
Mhm.
at least certain, you know, most forms of violence, you know,
Yeah.
not talking about a boxing match, you know, but um an attack, you know.
Mhm.
Um and So I just think that we just need to keep expanding that empathy because it helps us too. Like it helps us. I feel like I've grown a lot in my critical thinking skills, my research skills, because you know this prompted me to learn how to like do a bunch of research and stuff, you know, to defend the animals, and um, and yeah, just a sense of justice that's you know not limited to like my group, you know, it's like an in-group bias, I think.
Mhm. Yeah. Cool. Do you have any questions for me?
Um, well, one tough question at me that we could work on is like if like as far as like penalties for killing animals.
Hmm.
Because I don't know, I haven't thought a lot about that, and I don't need to take up all your time with me thinking about that, but like difference between like penalties for killing a human versus killing an animal, um, and the context like this around each of those situations, and should we value all humans equally? Should we value like even if
Yeah.
they're a kind of a scummy person, you know, like somebody who's maybe even been violent in a lot of ways, like should we value them
Yeah.
as much as like a really good
That's why I
person?
was asking all the questions about like the pit bull, the vicious, because
Yeah.
you said, well, maybe we shouldn't value the vicious animal as much as we value a nice animal. It's like, well, that's interesting. That doesn't
Hmm.
sound like it's about the welfare of the animal. That sounds like it's about our welfare. So that's why I was
Well,
asking
yeah, because
about that, right?
yeah, so I mean, I lean towards utilitarianism, you know, so there's that. But before we talk about penalties for killing, I wanted to wrap up something about like subjective morality and like so I think it's subjective whether me or another person cares about human and animal well-being. Um, but if we care about that, like if we agree upon that,
Mhm.
then we can come up with objectively true ways of accomplishing that goal of increased well-being for those individuals. And so therein lies the critical thinking, the science that shows their abilities to feel pain and stuff, the philosophical consistency, you know, and rationality and logic and stuff.
Yeah, and depending on how purist you are about protecting sentience, um, you know, should we like humanely end the species is this end all carnivorous species.
I was expecting you to get there. So that's kind of like a really contentious topic in and outside of the vegan movement. We there's some infighting about it. Um, but like so I'll try to answer that real quick. Like um this is my perspective, so it might depend on which vegan you ask, but a lion kills like 500 deer per lifetime. Okay.
Mhm.
Deer are pretty peaceful, right? So but if we killed off all the lions and bears and wolves and stuff, then we would likely have an ecological collapse where there would be because there wouldn't be any predators or less predators, there would be an increase of herbivores, and
Mhm.
they might eat up all the grasslands and whatnot, and then slowly starve to death, and it might be a worse situation than letting some of them get eaten alive slowly by a predator, which is a very sad thing to happen, right? So, if we could, like, the ideal would be, and I'm not saying this is realistic, but maybe 500 years in the future, and when we've gotten rid of all the factory farms and slaughterhouses, and everybody's vegan and they want to help wild animals now because like, then maybe there's something we could do, and that would be something like. And this is, I really have to preface this again that I'm not saying we should do this, but theoretically, maybe something like it could work to some degree, which is where you would like um, separate the lions from the gazelles and whatnot. You would feed the lions plant-based meat, okay, and give them exercise in some way, right? So it'd be like a giant lion sanctuary, right? Um, and then a giant deer sanctuary out there in the wild, and we would feed the deer or let them eat naturally or whatever, and we would like do birth control like on some of them, or catch and release and whatnot, to control make it so they don't overpopulate. Um,
Wow. Actually, what that's bringing in my mind is we started with the original premise of talking about basically factory farming, right? You said eliminate slaughterhouses,
yeah,
which in my mind that brings in the whole kind of like, you know, farm industrial complex where you're doing factory farming and all that. So how much is really strictly about ending the lives of sentient creatures or um, suffering for sentient creatures, and how much is it about the ecological damage or other problems, reduction in nutrition and so forth that's in the factory farming system? Like, can you rank those? Is it mostly about sentience, or are some of those other things inherent as well?
can you restate your question?
Well, so you were going to start talking about, well, how do we stop lions from killing deer? And like,
And
it seems like there's I like we could have a whole other conversation about that. Like,
yeah,
there's massive amounts of potential ethical problems there. Like, who are
yeah,
doing
because the
that?
lion's just trying to eat, they're just trying to
Yeah,
survive,
right.
but they're causing a lot of harm, and I value 500 deer more than one lion.
Yeah, but then but if we look in terms of humans, like, humans have hunted animals and subsisted off of meat for, hundreds of thousands of years, if not a couple million years. Um, but now we actually have this huge industry where we create animals
Yeah.
in order to end their lives, right? And is that in fact the problem and not just ending?
Oh, that's not it though. Like, I mean, like,
Sure.
I think hunting is like serial killing.
Mm.
You know what I mean? They're out enjoying their day, and we come up with our fucking rifle or whatever and just blow their heart away.
But do you have a ranked priority? Like, what would you? What would you stop? Would you stop hunting first?
No. Um, because I think factory farms and slaughterhouses are worse than hunting.
Mhm.
Um, even though hunting is seriously messed up. You know, but
But
uh
what is the thing about factory farming that makes
but
it the worst?
also I think we would have more success at I think it would be easier tactically to ban slaughterhouses than it would be to ban hunting. But eventually we're going to try to ban hunting too. Sorry,
Mhm.
you had asked a different question maybe?
Yeah, I mean that's I'm just wondering if is the reason that you would make slaughterhouses illegal that it's kind of low-hanging fruit, so to speak. It would be
Y-
easier.
In a way, yeah,
You
because
think it's more harmful.
a lot of people, well, both. Yeah, so both. But a lot of people are already against slaughterhouses, even though they buy from them. You know,
Sure.
in theory, their values, they'll tell me, meat eaters tell me, I'm against slaughterhouses. And like, I just lack the willpower to change. They tell me this. If you put a vote in front of me, I would vote to shut down the slaughterhouses. I agree with veganism. I
Mhm.
just can't stop. And so I need you to force me to stop, is what they're telling me.
Yeah,
Like, 'cause if slaughterhouses become illegal, then all the food on all the shelves will change to vegan products.
yeah. So what is it that makes slaughterhouses worse than hunting?
Oh, man. Well, I've been inside some and like I've seen thousands of hours of footage of undercover investigations. Um,
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, they're poked and prodded into this place, like from the farm. They start at the farm and where they're usually like, subjected to a lot of bodily mutilations like tail docking, ear clipping, teeth clipping, testicle ripping out or cutting with no painkillers because that'd be expensive and who cares? Um, and and then they're stuck in these tiny hell holes with their own urine and feces everywhere. And then they're for there for a few weeks or months, and then they are shipped off to the slaughterhouse, onto a transport truck that takes them to the slaughterhouse. And they're scared on the truck. I've seen them there plenty of times, and like you can see their eyes wide with fear, and we film it and show people what they're going through, and
So it really is the suffering of the animal that's is
the
that
deprivation of life and the taking of the life. Because even if it was serene farm environment before they're killed, and let's say we just snuck up on them one day while they're sleeping and shot them in the head, uh, like great, there's no pain and fear. That's wonderful, but like it's you still just put a hole in them for an optional product for taste pleasure, for
Mhm.
convenience and habit. It's like just because they look different, they sound different, they're not as smart as us.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, we've
Good
been
night.
at it for a while. It's been fun.
Yeah,
Do you have, I'm not sure of any more questions, but do you have anything else on your mind?
I'm wondering if anything in this conversation has changed your confidence on any of the details. Like, I didn't ask you for confidence in the beginning about making things illegal. I think I made you
Yeah.
the confidence scale about immorality.
Yeah,
Um,
I think a way to phrase that might be like, since the claim is a should claim, a normative moral claim, an ought claim, like that meat or that slaughterhouses should be illegal. I think
mhm.
instead of asking like, and you didn't do this, but like instead of the typical like, how confident are you that this claim is true? You might
Yeah.
say something like, how confident are you that this is a good idea? That this
Yeah,
claim is a good idea to
that's
implement.
why I do it on a two axis thing, right? Where one is it a moral duty or just a moral virtue or something that you like? And you they were definitely in the camp of it's a moral duty. And then your confidence of it, yeah, being true. Or
Yeah, because I'm still like, if yeah, I was and still am at a 99% confidence level that slaughterhouses should be illegal. That's a good idea. Um,
Mhm.
One thing we didn't get into really is the health stuff. But I can send you any kind of resources you want, if you're interested afterwards, to back up a lot of my claims and stuff like that, and just give you some extra education if you need it. Um, But yeah, like the health stuff, like if I were to find out that we actually do have to eat animal products, would I still
Mhm.
think that slaughterhouses should be illegal? Um, well, like maybe we could make it so that we don't kill. Well, see, what I would want to say is like we might still eat the dead body of the animal, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to
Mhm.
kill them. Like maybe we can wait till they die of natural causes of old age or whatever, and then eat them so that we don't end their life prematurely. But
Yeah.
it would take a whole bunch of extra resources to feed them for those extra years, and we don't have those resources. So um, I,
Yeah, I didn't ask questions in that vein just because I don't, first of all, I don't think it really impacted it doesn't seem to me that that supports the claim about slaughterhouses. We could end, even if we animals, that doesn't mean we need the slaughterhouse concept.
yeah.
Um, and also I think, and maybe I should have asked those questions, but it seems like even if we had to eat meat, it doesn't seem like that is a factor in your belief that it's immoral.
Right. Well, I would still think it's immoral, but at least understandable that we do it. Like we kill in order to survive.
Yeah.
Um, and but I think another question might be like if it turned out that 1% of the population had to eat animals because like
Mhm.
from my research, I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist or a doctor or nothing. I'm just some dude and I'm actually pretty bad at science, but I've done a whole bunch of research on plant-based nutrition and meat-based diet and comparing them. And it looks like not only do we not have to eat animal products in order to be healthy, but vegans have lower risk of heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes. You can still eat an unhealthy vegan diet of just Oreos all day, but but if you eat a well-rounded, and that can include some processed food, but just not candy all day. But like so from my research, there is no medical condition or disease or anything that requires eating animal products. So, but maybe there is something like maybe there's let's imagine that there's 1% of people who have an some kind of a combination of like an illness or an illness or two and allergies to a lot of plant foods. And combine this, and it makes it so that you know dietitians around the world say that these 1% of type people need to eat animal products, then how would I still support my claim that slaughterhouses should be illegal? And I would say at that point, we could shut down all the slaughterhouses, and do what I was talking about earlier, where we would raise and feed um, a, small enough amount of animals to feed that 1% after those animals died of natural causes or were euthanized at an older age. And then we feed them that.
Yeah, and again, I don't think that probably goes into your belief about the morality or the illegality. I mean, to be honest, if there were no animal products available for us, the portion of the human population that required surviving on animals um, would disappear from evolution, and we'd still have a human race. We just have a human race that could survive on the available food.
Yeah, cool. Well, I don't want to like
Awesome.
pester you too much about forcing you to go vegan right here and now. It's not usually my style. I just kind of
Yeah,
hope.
no, I'm like, you haven't asked me what my position was. I was surprised. I thought you were going to ask me where I stood on the.
Well, I'm kind of afraid to ask because I love you and I don't want to have to start hating you. No, I'm just playing. I just like
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm confident we won't get into a debate. I will gladly say that I'm in a position of cognitive dissonance. I am completely uh sympathetic to the vegan movement. I am also a habitual meat eater
Mhm.
from a from a genetic line that is strongly meat eating. So, Viking versus via the Norman conquest to England.
Hmm.
Um, and so I would say that uh, I eat a fairly small amount of meat. I try to use water, fish-based sources more often than not. But I do like my meat, and I do still eat it. But I also recognize that I don't have a moral leg to stand on with regard
Okay.
to my meat eating. So as I said, there's a certain amount of cognitive dissonance.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, I don't feel like beating you up too much. I would just try to,
I
educate.
know all the arguments. I mean, it's like there's
Yeah.
nothing that needs to happen to convince me other than just, it's habit and availability. If it wasn't available,
Yeah.
if you were successful at shutting down hunting and factory farms, I would happily make do with what I have available. So
Hmm. Do you think you would vote for that law that shuts down the slaughterhouses?
I might. I
Okay.
think I would definitely be sympathetic towards it. I think it would, some of the things I would think about would probably be along the lines of some of the things I was mentioning. It's like you shut down the slaughterhouses. Well, now you have a whole bunch of people displaced, and it's going to take a while to find like how do you balance the economy to replace that? And I don't think that's a reason to keep them around. I just think
Right.
that in ending that, there's going to be a temporary spike of human suffering while you try to figure out what the heck to do with all
Yeah.
then
And
and
maybe,
you do, and now you're going to be raising many, many plants to feed the animals that are still on those farms, like to the end of their natural lives, and which is still going to be a waste. But then there's an end to that at some point. So I think the
yeah.
logistics at this point in time are kind of horrendous, and I think it would be very, very difficult to make that happen. But
Yeah, it could be tricky, but there was they in Denver, some activists pro animal future introduced like a law, like a bill to ban slaughterhouses. Like I think there's only one slaughterhouse in Denver. It's a lamb slaughterhouse, and um, so this would shut that down and prevent any new slaughterhouses from being built in Denver. But
hmm,
that wouldn't ban meat in Denver. But you got to start somewhere. And they almost
almost
won. They kind of almost won. Like they got tens of thousands
almost
of,
like a NIMBY thing, right? You can grow meat, just not here.
yeah. And they got like tens of thousands of votes in favor and only lost by a few tens of thousands, so but in any case,
Well, I think you
well,
have
I
an uphill
guess,
battle, but I
yeah.
think you definitely have the moral high ground, and I wish you luck.
Well, yeah, thank you. And I just think it's my place to just try to, empower people, educate and motivate and be patient. And I'm trying to be patient and nice, and understanding. Um, but I would just say, like, don't underestimate yourself. Believe in yourself. You can do it. It's not that hard. You just buy something else at the grocery store, and, plan your trips beforehand, maybe bring a snack or whatever if you go to a place where there's not a lot of options and that kind of thing. Take it one day at a time, one meal at a time. Just plan for that. It doesn't sound so overwhelming. Or take the 22-day vegan challenge, challenge22.com. It's all free, and they give you free recipes and hook you up with a nutritionist, answer any questions you got, give you documentaries to watch, things like that. Um, so that's challenge22.com. And you can always hit me up. Anybody who's watching or listening, you can send me a message on Instagram or Discord, or follow me on YouTube to watch some crazy protests or some animal rescues and some debates and stuff like that, and some more street epistemology. Um, but yeah, thanks for having me, man. I
Well,
appreciate you.
yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. The first time I've tried to do SE in around this topic area, as I mentioned, and yeah, interesting
Well, I
stuff.
think you did well. I think you did well. Yeah, we covered a lot of things. It was good.
Yeah, I felt like I got pretty pedantic in there and
Eh.
in some of the things, but I think kind of getting into the nitty gritty and this versus that, I think is instructive. So
Yeah, that's what I wanted as well. And to go nice and deep into it. And because it's important, like where do we draw the line of moral consideration and why? Where and why, and we need to reevaluate that a lot of times, or else groups get left behind, And but I was gonna say one last thing. Maybe
Yeah.
can we summarize? We should have done this at the beginning, but like, can we explain what street epistemology is? And like from my perspective, I just basically say it's a polite interview where one person is asking questions of the other person to challenge them, asking challenging questions in a polite way to figure out what they believe and why they believe it, and if they have good reasons for believing that.
Well, I would say that everything you need to know is in my outro, which is, and I'll play the outro there.
Okay, that'll work. That'll work.
Which
Uh,
ends with find out more at streetepistemology.com.
Nice. All right, I like it. Cool. And for my sakes, I might take like however we figure this out of where the recording is going, I might take that first part where we're explaining what street epistemology is and put it at the front for just a second so that because a lot of
Mm,
people aren't aware of what it is.
sure. Yeah, and when I if you want, I can send you the video.
Oh, you
The
recorded
problem with
video as well?
Zoom, yeah, the problem with Zoom video is it jumps back and forth between the participants. It doesn't show both windows, which is kind of a pain, but
Oh, really? It's showing both windows on mine
it
at the
does.
same
But
time.
the recording doesn't do Zoom recording just does one thing, and it's you'll see.
Okay, well, I think because I'm just doing a screen grab uh, of the video through
Oh,
OBS,
okay, cool.
so it should show up double, like yeah,
Oh, nice. Oh, maybe I should try doing that.
like
I
how we're viewing it right now.
Yeah, just to make my life easier. That's why I do audio only. It's
Oh, I see.
just then I don't have to. I used to do, like I said, documentary filmmaking and all the video editing. I just don't have time in my life for that. I got dragged kicking and screaming into creating content, but at the end of the day, I record because it makes it much easier to get chats with people. If
Hmm.
I just tell people, "Hey, I want to have a chat about something you believe," they're like, "What the fuck? Who are you? Get out of here." But when I say, "Hey, I have a podcast," they're like, "I'm in."
Yeah.
Oh, that it's just it's a conceit that helps get me into
Okay.
that basis. So,
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of times I'll just say like, "Hey, I got a YouTube channel doing interviews real quick," and they're like, "Okay." But anyway, all
all
right.
right,
Well, cool.
take care.
Uh,
I've enjoyed it.
See you, Nick.
See ya. You've been listening to Conversations on the Coast, a series from Washington State featuring civil conversations using street epistemology to explore what people believe and why. Find out more at streetepistemology.com.